It's Julian Jones. I'm based here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I attended the University of Aberdeen from 2019 to 2021, where I got my MBA, and that was an incredible experience. I currently work for Microsoft within our commercial or our sales organization within a planning and operations role. And so glad to be here.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you. And why did you choose University of Aberdeen for your MBA?
Yeah, so I wanted to get a global perspective through this program, this MBA program, and the University of Aberdeen afforded me that opportunity to expand my own horizon, expand my own network, and then learn business from a global perspective, just given its importance in achieving work today. And that was valuable to me, and I'm super glad that I made that decision.
Thank you very much. And what were some of your favorite memories from Aberdeen?
Some of my favorite memories from Aberdeen, I would have to say it was connecting and doing work with classmates in different parts of the world. Again, many are afforded an opportunity who are going to Aberdeen to get that global perspective, and so to have peers in the Middle East and in Africa and Asia and understand their working context and come together to deliver work. I would say that's one of the most incredible memories for me, kind of forging those relationships and doing that on a global scale through this program. Those are memories that I'll cherish forever.
That's great. And did you participate in any student organizations or clubs?
I was a part of the alumni. There was some sort of organization I was a part of. I don't recall the official name of it,
Mhm.
but just do that, like I think a student government sort of role. That was something I sought to contribute to during my time.
Thank you. And how is MBA from University of Aberdeen different from your previous degrees that you had?
Yeah, so the University of Aberdeen degree for me was a very research intensive program that really gave me the opportunity to think critically through writing. And so for me, that was one of the distinguishing marks. And one of the reasons why I frankly chose Aberdeen was just it's a research intensive university. And so to experience that and go through the program, that was for me the distinguishing mark. It wasn't study and memorization. It was truly critical thinking and application of that. And that for me just really was again a differentiator of Aberdeen, and has definitely shaped even my aspirations when I think about long term, aspirations to pursue a terminal degree. Aberdeen was so critical to that.
Thank you very much. And
Yeah.
how have your actual initial career aspirations have changed while studying for different degrees, different universities? How have they changed?
Yeah, so it's I studied marketing at a university in Atlanta, and then when I got the MBA, my initial goals were, hey, how do I use this to get more management experience, to enhance my skills and thinking in a particular area. But as I was going through the program, it really unlocked a passion and an interest in change management and communication, not just from the practical side and some of the work I had done previously, but also from the academic or the theoretical side. And for me, that was just like unlocking a door into even further possibilities, which even informed my current pursuit of I'm working on a second master's at another university. But all of that, I could say, was tied to my experience at Aberdeen and really unlocking the door of what was possible in exploring this discipline of change and communication from an enterprise perspective.
Thank you. And do you still keep in touch, stay in touch with people that you met at University of Aberdeen?
Yes, absolutely. Through different career changes and updates that myself and my classmates went through, we still connect, via LinkedIn and WhatsApp, some of the tools we use to communicate, to offer congratulatory support to one another. And I think that's been incredible, and having that global network and seeing wherever these individuals are in their own pathways. To me, it's just been just a joy to see their own growth, but deeply appreciative for their support in my own journey as I've made different career moves.
Thank you. And did you participate in any internships or part-time jobs while you were a student?
No, while I was a student, I was also working full time, and so
Mhm.
I that consumed all of it. So I did not have any additional participation.
Thank you. And can you explain what is your current job within Microsoft and what are your responsibilities?
Yeah, so my current job in Microsoft, I work in a commercial organization, specifically sales planning and operations. And I'm responsible for helping to orchestrate executive business reviews and ensuring that our most senior commercial leaders have a socket or a forum to review and assess performance from a financial perspective, from a solution perspective, and also from a say business strategy perspective. And so I get the joy of working with some amazing teams, really bright people, and supporting efforts to help us achieve our ambitions. And so I'm part of a great team doing great work, and I'm just thrilled to be at such an incredible company at the forefront of technology and AI as we see it's really impacting society and the world today.
That's very impressive. And how
Yeah.
is it different from the jobs that you have had in the past?
Yeah. So my first job was at Apple. It was a leadership development program, and that provided me a very generalistic view of how to run a business. And so I got a chance to do some coaching and leadership, understanding sales and merchandising, logistics, and that provided me a very well-rounded view. I had a role at Verizon where that gave me an opportunity to kind of understand enterprise implementation of complex technology. And so that gave me a chance to work directly with some really large customers, but also refine my project management skills from a technical perspective, but also kind of a stakeholder engagement. From there, I then worked for a pharmaceutical company, and that gave me the opportunity to further refine that project management, program management experience, as I also got a chance to do some special projects related to technology within the pharmaceutical space. And so that was again a tremendous role. And then my next role following that was still in the pharmaceutical space, but it was more on the communication side of it. And that this was while pursuing the MBA as well at Aberdeen, but that afforded me the opportunity to really refine my ability to craft communication strategy, craft content, and navigate all the complexities within the pharmaceutical space in delivering that content. And my main audience was doctors. And so that was the unique experience there. And then that continued. I worked for another pharmaceutical company after that, working in the office of the CIO. So I did executive communication, change communication. And so that was just an incredible opportunity to do messaging at scale and supporting C-suite leaders. And so what I'm doing now is more operations based, but it's leveraging project management. It's leveraging change, it's leveraging internal and executive communication. So in some ways, it's a compilation of all of that, allowing me to use those skills, but also the education that I gained at Aberdeen.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting and impressive. And how did you manage to get a job at Microsoft? And what were your like first position within it?
Yeah, so I've been at Microsoft for almost a little over 2 years now. But while I was working at this previous pharmaceutical company, I was actually recruited. Again, I was working for the Office of CIO, and my responsibilities were leading change management efforts for the Microsoft suite at this company,
Mhm.
but also a cybersecurity initiative as well as leading change and communication for that. And so while I was just working, I got a message from a recruiter to consider a role at Microsoft. And to me, I was like, wow, this is one of the largest companies in the world, admired brand. I would love to work for it. And so I went through the process, went through the interviews, and I realized through that this is such an opportunity to contribute to one of the world's most influential companies of all time. And so I had to say yes. And I'm so glad I did because it's been a tremendous growth opportunity. But to answer your second part of your question, my first role in Microsoft was in HR, specifically global talent acquisition. And that's the recruiting function of Microsoft. And so I got a chance to help build a project management office within that organization to help ensure that all the work delivered to support recruiting was tied to strategy and had clarity and guidance. And so that's what I did within the recruiting world. And then I moved recently into the commercial world, which I just described a few
Yeah.
moments ago.
Thank you very much. And can you walk us through your day-to-day work routine, some basics of it?
Yeah, some basics. So for me, in the orchestration of these executive reviews, my cycles are more quarterly, and so there is things I do to prepare for that. There are meetings I have to ensure that we are aligned to a particular work back and going from how do we go from this idea to executing within the certainly quarterly rhythm. And so it requires a lot of project planning, as I mentioned. It requires a lot of stakeholder engagement. So being able to communicate effectively with people who are in different parts of the world
Hmm.
Hence that Aberdeen degree was so valuable, but also the ability to work with different segments. As I mentioned, it's not just the geographical differences, but there's different parts of Microsoft that I have to work with. And so it's try to stay clear on who's who, kind of what are the key open things that need to be developed, discussed, discovered, and then how do we progress that from kind of ideas and concept and discussion to execution. So that is what the majority of my role, like if I can summarize it, it entails working with senior leadership teams, communicating, and lots of planning and executing. So
That's very good. Thank you. And what are your proudest moments at Microsoft?
yes, proudest moments at Microsoft. I would say it was working in talent acquisition and helping to build a new capability within that organization through this project management office, and understanding the importance of having and strong, solid systems and processes and how projects are delivered to support recruiting at scale. And so, getting a chance to work with some incredibly bright minds at Microsoft who are thinking about how do we bring in the best talent to achieve Microsoft's ambitions. And so, to me, having a fingerprint on some of that work and its impact on the company, to me, that's one of the proudest moments that I had at Microsoft so far.
Thank you. And does Microsoft provide internships for students?
Yeah, so on the career site, that is the channel on which internships are posted, and yes, so there are internships for students, and definitely encourage people to visit the incredible career site on Microsoft and explore those opportunities because they are yeah, just unique in providing the skills and the experience needed to build a successful career, in my opinion.
Thank you. And in your opinion, what is your advice for students trying to get internships?
Yeah, so I would say from my advice is twofold. One is think clearly about what one's direction is, right? What is that North Star? No one knows it perfectly as far as like how to get there, right? We have a direction. I
Mhm.
think defining that early, and that direction may be based on what are the values, what are the experiences, what does one want to get, and what is one willing to do to achieve it. So I think all of that is tied to what that North Star is. And I would say next to that is what is the motivation? And so thinking about direction, thinking about one's motivation, and then lastly, what are the skills that one has that have helped you excel where you're at, that you'd want to build upon, that you want to explore further. And so for me, if I use an example, like my aspirations are to be a chief operating officer someday. One of my motivations is creating harmony within different stakeholder groups, organizing and delivering in complex environments and delivering results with and through others. And so that's the motivation and how I work. I have a clear North Star. And some of the skills that are important to me are communication, change, and project management, some of those things I mentioned earlier. And so it's getting internal clarity there. And so as you are showing up, your brand is refined more and more as you get experiences educationally and professionally, and you're able to communicate to others like who you are and the value you bring. But I think that starts with that internal work first, and then adding on the experiences, the internships, the networking. All of that is key, but I think it starts with defining who one wants to be internally, and then letting the world know through that.
Thank you very much. And how do you manage your time effectively? Do you have any tips?
Yeah, so I manage my time effectively with really rigorous planning. So I use calendar, my internal calendar, my Google Calendar, if you will, and to me that enables me to create time blocks for things. So there's time blocks for work, and then I have a family as well, so I ensure that I block out time to be undistracted and present with them. As I mentioned, I'm also in grad school as well, so I kind of have to schedule in the late evenings when I will kind of work on my graduate school work. And then on Fridays, I try to carve out time for networking and ensuring that I'm building relationships, and I'm very intentional about that. On the weekends, I carve out time as well when it comes to just reflection and reading and running and working out and exercising, because that's so important as well. And so I really try to make time for the things that are valuable. And so that's kind of how I manage time very
That's
intensely.
great. That's great. Thank you. And how do you maintain good communication within your team and with other teams you're working with?
Yeah, so for me, good communication is, I think, rooted first in relationships. I think kind of preceding any sort of like plans and strategies, it's building connection with people, genuine connection, just to see who they are. So I think that for me is the foundation of good communication. It's relational trust and capacity. But when it comes to actual tools, to me, I try to think through what is the simplest way to communicate, what's the preferred channel for individuals, and how do I streamline that. And so given all the different stakeholders I engage with, different time zones, I try to create logically organized places or channels in which to communicate with groups. And so there's clarity and consistency through those channels versus kind of a sporadic, random, unorganized approach. And I think people value clarity and consistency, which also builds trust as you execute on work.
Thank you very much. And in your opinion, what are the most demanding skills some students would need to get into your field?
Yeah. So, and from an operations perspective, I would say I think project management skills, not so much that not being having to be the forefront of what one is like a project manager, but the skills needed to take ambiguous ideas at times within ambiguous environments, clarify that, bring in the right people and the right systems and processes, and then execute on that. So projects are really unique things, and sometimes there's a need within the organization or the marketplace to deliver something. You won't have all the answers, but how do you develop that skill and that discipline, that muscle to take idea and kind of bring it to reality? And it requires, in my view, those project management skills in doing that. I would say
Thank
the second thing is communication, which is, you could say, a soft skill, but how to read the room, have emotional intelligence, and communicate in ways that people hear, and it lands and adds value to what they need to do. So communication and project management, and I might be biased, but those are the skills I would say.
thank you very much. And what is your advice for networking for students?
Yes, I would say from a networking perspective, I'll go to the point I mentioned earlier about clarity on direction,
Yeah.
refining that clarity on motivation and the values a student has, and then being clear as far as like the skills that you or the capabilities that you have and what you want to build. I think that's so important because as you're reaching out, I think it gives others clarity as far as, hey, who is this person, where they want to go, and then how can I even invest in their growth to fuel their direction. I think that that's helpful. Just having some sort of picture there. I would say the second thing goes back to something I've tried to communicate in this call was an authentic relational perspective versus a transactional. And I've seen both sides of it where, there are examples where people will reach out just for a referral or just for, a job, but it's very transactional. It's very one time. It's not personal. And it's really hard sometimes to help individuals like that when it's a very transactional versus individuals who are, have a more emotionally aware approach and they are seeking to develop a relationship, which is networking is about. It's relationships. And so to me, I would highlight relational intentional focus is key versus being transactional.
Yes, thank you. And would you recommend your career field to others?
Yes, absolutely. Business operations is such a key role for those who are interested in working in ambiguous, complex, cross-functional environments where you're working with all types of people. I think to me that is one of the joys and benefits because it gives you an opportunity to learn different parts of a company, different functions within a company, different types of roles within a company. And so that is one of the values I would say of being in kind of operations planning and strategy roles.
Yeah, thank you. And a lot of students struggle with transition from academia to professional world. What advice do you have for these students?
Yes. And so one of the lessons I learned early on in my journey was there are places and times for kind of the academia world within corporate. So it's just how to best translate the learnings and the insights and the education into an environment where individuals may not have had that same level of expertise or understanding, and how to translate that in a way that's valuable to them. And so I think that's for me is probably one of the first learnings I've had. And the second thing I've learned is a growth mentality. So it's a learn it all versus a know it all mentality. And I think that that learn it all approach really disarms people as well. It keeps one in a place of curiosity where you continue to learn in organization and people. And it's so effective in delivering work and delivering work with and through others when you don't have a know it all mentality. Because it's hard to grow and deliver if one has it already, versus the one who's has a curiosity to keep going, keep exploring. And so be a growth mindset, learn it all is my recommendation.
So a lot of students struggle with stress. How did you manage to deal with stress as a student, and what advice do you have for them?
Yes, I think there are two things I would want to highlight. I think one is going back to values, like what does one value, right? And so if one, like for myself, I valued relationships in college, and so that gave me, hey, I want to perform well, and I graduated, did well, but I value the relational experience as well, the networking, the connecting with even with
Mhm.
professors while I was there. So for me, I was like, hey, I will do well, but I'm also going to prioritize lunch with the professor, connection with classmates, evening hangouts or weekend hangouts with peers. And so that was so valuable because those relationships will go beyond your time at Aberdeen or any other university. And so that is key. And so to me, it's like, do I stress over another hour or 2 hours studying, or do I have enough confidence to say I've done enough, but I'm also going to prioritize my relational health or my own physical or mental health? So I think that one is key. And then the second thing is going back to kind of that time box approach. It's how does one have clarity as far as where the time is going, and where time may be kind of slipping. And I think just that clarity can give you that level of calm. I'm like, hey, no, I'm going to enjoy this Wednesday evening because I know I have time carved out for study this particular day. And so I think that level of rigor and planning kind of gives one ease, knowing I can take today off because I know I have plans for this, or I'm going to work hard tonight, but I have time to kind of rest and relax whatever period is coming up. And so I think that planning gives you freedom, in my view, to kind of have a harmony between work and life.
Thank you for this amazing advice. And if you could go back in time, would you change anything about your experience at University of Aberdeen?
If I can go back in time, I would change one thing, which was more connection with professors. So again, I connected with them through the courses and even my peers as well. But I I would do more of that next time as well, because you work with incredible people. They are experts in their field. And so how to stay connected from a networking perspective is something I would have done a little bit more of.
Thank you. And the last question is, what advice would you give to younger self?
Yes, the advice I would give to my younger self is less perfectionism, um, and more kind of growth mindset, which I was kind of have been speaking to because I graduated high school with a 4.0, went to a great university for undergrad, got an MBA, graduate with distinction. But I think over time there was this desire for, hey, it has to be perfect. I have to get the best thing, and sometimes that does come at a cost for that rest. That comes at a cost of, hey, do I spend a little bit more time studying, or do I kind of do enough and spend more time networking, more time connecting with professors and peers and learning about industry? And so for me, I think it'll be less perfectionism and more curiosity about professors and peers and business and a lot of other areas of learning that aren't always tied to a grade. And to me, that's something I still am seeking to embrace today. How do I leverage a growth, learn it all mentality versus trying to have a perfect whatever, because it's just not reality. And it also frees me from the stress and the demands of trying to reach an unattainable goal versus enjoying the journey, if you will.